This week, Their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla concluded their state visit to Italy in the historic and at times chaotic city of Ravenna, a city that, much like the king himself, bridges empires, epochs and ideals, and if Rome was the stage for ceremony, Ravenna became the theatre of symbolism. The king's 4-day journey had already been punctuated with resounding success: a warm reception at the Colosseum, a landmark address to the Italian Parliament, delivered partly in Italian to great acclaim, and a private audience with the Pope. All this lent the trip the gravity of statecraft and the grace of tradition, but Ravenna was something else entirely. As the royal motorcade approached this compact city in northern Italy, thousands had already filled the piazzas, and the welcome was euphoric, the crowds impassioned, a sight almost inconceivable only a year ago when the king, still in cancer treatment, was absent from public life. And now there he was, in the very heart of a teeming crowd, shaking hands, sampling pasta, inspecting mosaics with the zeal of a man unbowed by illness or age. But why Ravenna? Ravenna is not merely a picturesque Italian backwater. It was once the capital of the Western Roman Empire, later the Byzantine Empire's outpost in Italy, and today a jewel of early Christian art and culture. Its 6th century mosaics inside the Basilica of San Vitale, which King Charles toured with evident awe, are regarded as among the most exquisite in the world. And there is something almost prophetic about this king. Long a devotee of art, spirituality, and Byzantine architecture, standing quietly before these mosaics. They're shimmering symbols of continuity and transformation, much like the monarchy he now leads. Ravenna is also the final resting place of Dante Alighieri, father of the Italian language and author of the Divine Comedy. In life, Dante was exiled from Florence. In death, he found honour in Ravenna. As the king and queen visited his tomb, one could not help but think of Charles's enduring reverence for literature and exile in its various forms, spiritual, political, even personal. A monarch whose reign began in global fracture, finding kinship with a poet who charted the soul's ascent through chaos to harmony. But Ravenna was not all harmony. The city, historically a leftist stronghold, gave the royals a rather partisan version of history. At a council session marking the 80th anniversary of the city's liberation, the mayor lionized the communist partisans of the Garibaldi Brigade, praising them as the liberators of Ravenna, with only passing reference to the British 8th Army. There was no interpreter, perhaps mercifully so. In truth, Ravenna was liberated on December the 4th, 1944, by British and Commonwealth troops. The partisans, brave though they were, arrived later, often following in the Allies' wake. Indeed, nearly 1,000 Allied soldiers lie in the Ravenna War Cemetery, among them Canadians, Indians, New Zealanders, and the volunteers of the Jewish Brigade. The king's visit to that site was a quiet but potent act of diplomatic clarity, a reminder that history is not just what is said, but what is remembered. And beyond the politics and pageantry, there was deep joy. At Ravenna's Piazza del Popolo, the king and queen sampled local delicacies, parmesan paired with Scotch whisky naturally, and the queen, ever the sport, tried her hand at pasta making. A mosaic commemorating their coronation was unveiled by students of the local art academy, to whom the king spoke warmly. In fact, he helped place the final tile, a small act with large meaning. Here was a monarch not just preserving the past, but participating in it. And behind the scenes, Charles reunited with Federico Marchetti, a Ravenna native and sustainable fashion pioneer, with whom he collaborates on regenerative cotton farming in Apulia. The fashion industry, he reminded us, is more polluting than aviation, and yet here in Ravenna, sustainability, heritage, and style converge. In his final closing remarks at the Vatican and the Quirinale Palace, the king emphasized friendship in fragile times. He reminded both nations that the world remains precarious, that peace must be willed into being, not merely hoped for. And so the king and queen returned home with gifts of pasta, whisky, and perhaps the echo of Dante's words in their ears: in the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark wood, for the straight way had been lost. But in Ravenna they did not seem lost. If anything, they seemed found by a city that welcomed them, a history that enveloped them, and a people who, for one luminous day, embraced them.